Steel Vengeance is an amazing RMC roller coaster located at Cedar Point. This mile-long ride is a conversion of their old Mean Streak wooden coaster. Commonly cited as one of the best rides in the world, you absolutely have to check out this coaster if you haven't done so yet. Steel Vengeance may be amazing, but it has been a headache for Cedar Point since its construction. Its structure has needed additional reinforcement since its construction, and its original brake run was inadequate, resulting in a collision between two trains in its opening year. Loose articles and phones have additionally been a problem on this ride, leading Cedar Point to implement a strict no loose articles policy, with guests being required to deposit their phones and other items in a locker before riding. It is this process and policy that we are going to be taking a deep look at, as Cedar Point has created an extremely inefficient system to police oncoming riders, ensuring that their rules be followed. So a quick disclaimer here. I want to state that this is a Cedar Point management issue, and at no point should we be getting frustrated with the ride ops over their terrible policies and procedures. With that in mind, treat the ride ops with kindness and respect. They have been handed terrible tools to do their jobs, and unfortunately this is what we're going to have to deal with until management changes their policies. So what are we talking about here? What is so wrong with waiting in this line compared to other rides at Cedar Point and other amusement parks? Well, at this point, I'm going to be using a few diagrams to show what I mean here. And we're going to be focusing on everything from the fast lane merge point up until the station. This is where you enter what I like to call the tunnel. The tunnel doesn't really serve any purpose but to get you to the lockers and metal detection, but it happens to also go right past the lockers. At the end of the tunnel, you have both metal detection and the entrance to the lockers. This area is a congested mess. If you don't like getting up close and personal with a bunch of strange people, you are really not going to like this area. You have people jostling to get by as they go to the lockers, then back to the tunnel to their friends. Then there's another line of guests that are waiting to get to metal detection from the lockers. So you have the people trying to enter lockers having to squeeze around that line of people waiting to get into metal detection as well. Making all of this worse is that Cedar Point seems to have set the detectors to go off for literally everything. Just about every single person to go through detection has to be stopped and subsequently waved down by a hand detector. This bottleneck is often so bad that several times I have got to the station afterward to have the grouper frantically waving me onto a train that gets dispatched with empty rows afterwards. Considering how long the standby queue gets for Steel Vengeance, this is quite egregious. To fix this mess, I propose that we redesign the line queue. To begin, the tunnel serves no purpose, so we are going to get rid of it and feed the lines directly into the lockers. After all, why walk all the way past the lockers just to circle back at them at metal detection? Next, we're going to open up the area around metal detection so that guests can easily line up for it after storing their valuables. No more hearing "excuse me, pardon me" as guests try to get to either lockers or metal detection. Next, we're going to have Cedar Point get its act together regarding these detectors. They go off for everyone, and for the dumbest of things. We don't see the detectors in the front of the park, the ones for actual security, going off for things like belt buckles and buttons. Cedar Point, please fix this crap so people can get through faster. I'm also happy to say that we have restored Fastlane to its own staircase, letting out in the station as the ride was originally intended to have. I also want to introduce a skippable set of switchbacks after metal detection on the regular line. And that's just because rides like Velocicoaster and Twisted Timbers have them, and I have a feeling that it helps give the ops more breathing room in regards to the metal detection. Alternatively, we could redesign the line queue to be exactly what it was when the ride opened, but with the metal detectors right at the entrance to the ride. This is what Top Thrill 2 does, and it seems pretty effective. But Top Thrill 2 also requires you to pay for a locker before riding. And I know that's its own controversy in itself, with Cedar Point's excuse being that it's a last-minute decision from the ride manufacturer. And that brings us to the big elephant in the room. We have a bunch of inconsistent loose article policies regarding Cedar Point's roller coasters. So, riddle me this. How is it any different to take a phone onto Maverick or Millennium Force where there is no detectors? Inconsistent policies are the worst kind of policies, in my opinion. And even more significant is the amount of manpower that Cedar Point is employing just to metal detect guests on rides. Here. Let me ask you, the viewer, a question. Was Gemini open the last time you visited Cedar Point? I find it more often closed than open. And when the lines to the park's major coasters are regularly reaching waits of over an hour long, I see this as a pretty big issue. Theoretically, a closed roller coaster results in a loss of ticket sales to the park. And I get that this is an old ride, but there are plenty of guests who immensely enjoy it. And if you live out of state and a Cedar Point trip is a big deal for you and your family, hearing that it's closed may influence your decision on whether to go or to wait. It is my personal belief that Cedar Point should just implement a no loose articles policy for every ride. I am already going to need a movable locker every trip just for Top Thrill 2, so I already see the rides as an upcharge. So just ban phones on all big coasters the way Great Adventure does. And to support my argument, I ask you, the viewer, to think about every time you've seen a coaster stopped on a lift hill here due to a phone being out. Let's use Millennium Force as an example, with the ride being stopped due to a phone on the lift. With that ride, I believe the ops actually have to contact maintenance to take that ultra-slow trolley up the lift hill to the train. For a ride like this, a stoppage can take a great deal of time, annoying all the guests who are waiting. In addition, you have the guests walking throughout the park who see the ride stop on the lift and think, oh, it's broke down. Millennium Force must not be reliable. I'm not getting on that. At this point, though, I'm rambling on. I want to hear your thoughts and opinions on all of this. Do you believe Steel Vengeance simply needs a redesign of its line queue, or do you believe Cedar Point should take more drastic measures? Comment below, and thanks again for watching the Coaster Serpent. Goodbye and have a great rest of your day.